right, good morning. What we're going to look at is cleaning a pan after making pancakes. Since there's not a lot of residue, but there is some things on here that you can see the blueberry is left behind, and if you leave that on there, it'll build up and it'll be a lump eventually, and it'll be really hard to remove without removing all of your good curing. So, okay, the pan is now heated up, and what I like to do is I get a paper cloth, good and sopping wet, and stick it on here. And you can see it actually just remove all the residue without too much trouble. See, and then that's your basic maintenance after you use your fry pan. And you can see the heat and the water just removing any oil left behind. So it's pretty clean. Ooh, see, I can still see some blueberry residue. Scrape it off, and then there. Now, it's as clean as I'm gonna get it. And now that the pan is good and hot, I'm going to add a little bit of grapeseed oil. So now that our pan is still hot and the pores on the pan are opened up and they'll receive oil really nicely, the thing you want to use is something called flaxseed oil. And this oil will harden like no other oil will. And it's expensive. You don't need very much. Matter of fact, I honestly, that's more than enough for what we're doing today. What I'm doing is just putting a light coat of this on the pan while it's still hot. And it's a real satisfying thing to do. And the pan loves it when it's hot like this. And you don't want to put any more than that on there. Matter of fact, we're going to wipe off any extra. And if you see other parts of the pan that look a little dry, hit it up. Usually the back side is pretty cured and you don't have to do much there, but since I have it, we'll put a little on here. But this is your basic maintenance. Oh, shit. After you use it once. You don't have to stick it in the oven, but if you happen to be cooking something that day and your pan has got a little bit of oil on it like this, it's really nice for you to stick that in a hot oven for a couple hours. It's not interfering with whatever else you're cooking, but what you're doing then is really hardening up your grapeseed oil, and you're creating another new layer of curing. I don't know if that's quite the right word, but this is maintenance, and you've got to do this practically every time you do a cooking on a new pan that's just been newly cured. And it's just good basic maintenance. So there you go. See how shiny it is? Okay, one last thing. I know I've said grapeseed oil, and now I'm looking at this and it says flaxseed oil. They're interchangeable. Those two types of oil are polymerizing oils that harden like rock, and they're called a dry oil, and they're kind of expensive, but as you can see, I've had this bottle for probably, gosh, I don't even know. What's the expiration date? Can't even see the expiration date. It's so old. I keep it in the refrigerator, and the only thing I use it for is cast iron, and if it's rancid, it doesn't really matter because it's going on a fry pan and it's getting heated up. So stick it in the refrigerator and use it every time you clean your pan, and only use a little bit. So I'm going to show you how to clean a pan after you've cooked something nasty in it. Here we've got just basic bacon grease and some chunks. And over here is my special concoction. I've got scrambled egg stuck on here, some shredded cheese, and then to top it off, I cooked down some jelly. So that sugar is on here really hard. I mean, it is stuck hard. And the way you clean something this nasty is you boil it. So I'm gonna get some hot water in here. And I'm gonna boil the hell out of it. And that's gonna loosen the particles. Hopefully it loosens that baked on, cooked on nastiness. And then I'm gonna show you what I do with this. I just use this scraper thing. Works great. It totally lifts and pulls stuff off really well. And then I do a little bit of soap and water. So just to cut that grease. So it comes right off. And then I'll show you how to cure it again. Hot water. And I've got just a little bit of soap in here. Don't need a ton, but it will kind of help cut that grease. And if this pan is cured enough, it should slide right off. Look at that. This is just smooth. And you just kind of scrape it off, and you can see that little bit of soap is not gonna take the finish off at all. Now, if I put soap on it and I let it soak overnight with soap, that's not good. You don't want to do something that aggressive to pull the finish off or to clean a pan. So just a little bit of soap and water, wipe it down, and then turn on the fire. And this really, when you turn on the fire again, that will really take the water off. And any water you leave could rust it. So even if you've got a great finish, sometimes a little rust can pop up. So the best thing to do is to heat that pan after you clean it and let it get warm. And you can actually just put a smooch, hopefully it's not too hot, and use your hand, and you can actually just kind of wipe on another layer of oil, and that will store up great. Okay, so this has been rapidly boiling for the last 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes total, and I can tell things are really loosening up on it. I've put a really thin coat of oil on this, and then I wiped it down because you can see we really don't want much oil on this, because I'm going to stick this in the oven at 450 for about an hour, and then I'm going to turn it off. I put oil on the back too. It's not perfect. It's an old one. But what we want to do is cook this for an hour upside down at 450. Oh shit, there's one in there already. So I've been carrying another pot the other day a big old lodge for the campfire. See the feet on that? So it has a big old lid on it. Now you can kind of see the difference between a Lodge brand. See how it doesn't really have the best finish, and that's because they put a pre-season on it, and it'll never look as awesome as that. Can you see the difference between a Lodge and something that's 100 years old? It's the finish, and it's thinner. Lodges are heavier. Heavier doesn't mean better. Actually, in my opinion, heavier means cheaper. This is better. And so we put this in the oven, upside down, wiped off, very thin coat of oil. And I talked about the oil already. And we just let her rip. After an hour, turn off the oven and don't do a thing. Keep it closed. It's hardening up, and you do this over and over and over again, and you're gonna have the best finish ever. All right, so this is what it looks like after it's been boiling, and you can see it's pulling right up, and that's because we've got a really good cure on this thing already, and nothing's really sticking too hard on this. Now, I'm gonna get this cleaned off. I'll use a little bit of soapy water, ever so slightly soapy, and basically do the same thing I did with the other pan. And I must tell you, if you're gonna do the oven curing, and you must if you have a cast iron, you need to turn on the vents and a ceiling fan to circulate the air, because it's gonna get a little bit smoky. But if you wipe off your pan enough, don't leave too much oil on it, you shouldn't have too much of that smoky issue. I have opened windows and stuff, but if you have a lot of smoke coming off of a pan, it's because you put way too much oil on it, and you really need to wipe it off. You've got to have the thinnest layer of oil when you're curing in the oven. And that's pretty much it. If you got any questions, you can call me and I can walk you through it. So that's it.